Hello there, and welcome to another episode of The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring podcast with your host, Gideon. That's me, by the way. We are now in episode 6, meaning once this episode is over, we have covered around a sixth of the entire film. I hope my math is right. It never was my strong suit. I was more a language and history kid in school. It doesn't show at all, huh? Little side note, I'm recovering from a flu I had last week. It sprung upon me like a trap card, and so if my voice is not as angelical as it usually is, that is the reason why. I apologize for that, so yeah, but let's get going. As always, we shall analyze more of this masterpiece and learn a few more things, hopefully, on the way, and I say we'll just get into it, shall we? But first, I want to apologize, because starting at episode 3, I made the mistake of not ending at the right and proper second, but for some reason ended 8 seconds later than I should have. Don't ask me how I missed this or why I did this, but this means the previous episode should have ended with Gandalf's shocked expression, rather than the stairs. So, to rectify this, before it gets any more out of whack with time, I'd say we simply start at Gandalf's face here, and forget the last section of the previous episode. The last section being stairs, that is. We good? Nice. We begin at minute 25 with Gandalf's shocked face, and end at minute 30 with Gandalf's smoking a pipe but not looking happy at all face. It's a very Gandalf face heavy episode, it looks like. He really seems to hate it when Bilbo pulls off a prank like that. We cut away from the masses and see them rushing to the stage to where Bilbo just was. Man, they either are not fast or Bilbo is just the Flash when he wears the ring, cause he was just there, I know, but he's already at his house, and they are just rushing the stage now. So, they're either super slow or he is super fast. The invisible footsteps are heard as they ascend the stairs and reach the green door, which opens on its own, but we know it's Bilbo who is invisible while wearing the ring, so he pushes it open. In the moonlight, we can see that the paint of the door has seen better days. It's probably been a few years ever since Bilbo bothered to paint it again. My best guess is that he never did so again after his quest with the dwarves. You see, in The Hobbit, Gandalf carves a rune into this door, so the dwarves know where to knock. And they do. Knock at this door, one by one they appear. Oh yes, they do appear.
Oh yes, he's right!
But even though Bilbo cannot see it or find it, I would believe that he wouldn't want to paint over the magical symbol as a tribute to the dwarves and their shared adventure. Fun fact! The rune is never given a visual description in the book, only that it means burglar or thief expert. The one we see in the Peter Jackson film has little connection to that. Yes, Gandalf still says that it's a mark to show to where the burglar is, but literally this rune simply means G for Gandalf. So I assume in this movieverse, Gandalf is a massive thing, and even among the dwarves that his initials alone are enough as a marker of sorts. Impressive! I want to have Gandalf's marketing team. We are now inside the Hobbit hole and the door closes like it's magic. In truth, it's just Bilbo, of course. But in actual reality, you know, the one making the film, I can't tell you. I looked at this scene several times and I did not spot any obscured mechanism that would do that. Maybe something in the hinges, but that is a big guess on my part. There are two, let's say, lines left off the door following into the long metal that binds the hinges to the house. So maybe those could be some cables that then close the door after a certain mechanism is pushed. I don't know. I couldn't 100% say. But whatever. Bilbo is now back home and I noticed a shit ton of dust. Look at the corner there, where this massive trunk is standing right behind the door. All around it, the dust just gathers, like no one can be bothered to move something that heavy to just clean properly. Which is completely fine and understandable. I too am a lazy son of a... Bilbo then reappears, laughing with the ring in his hand, twirling it around. This effect of vanishing and reappearing could be achieved in many ways. One, they filmed the scene empty with anyone inside, then filmed the scene again with now someone inside the scene, laid them on top of each other, but cut them in a way so that only at a certain time a character would pop back into the scene. Another way would be a green screen. The actor would be wrapped in a blanket completely in green on the outside. Said blanket would then be ripped away from the actor and it would look like they reappeared out of nowhere. But that is quite unlikely because we'd see some sort of physical evidence of the green screen or the blanket or whatever, and it's way too smooth right now. I think they did a more advanced version of the first, where they filmed 2 scenes, one with and without Bilbo, and then digitally put him back into the scene so that it looks like he just reappeared, and if you do it digitally you can add a little flair to it, which they've kind of done here. We got no time to waste, because immediately after that, Bilbo picks up a walking stick, walks a few steps and has 2 candlesticks in the other hand. Where did you pick those up, Bilbo? It can't be that long after, since he still carries the sticks from just 1 frame ago, and Frodo hasn't come home yet, so he's still searching for Bilbo with the others. So, where do you get those candles from, Bilbo? No matter, this angle though this time gives us a different entrance to the living room. We see on a table left on the screen, filled with random stuff and sunflowers. Aw, those are pretty. But why aren't they at the window? Bilbo, those are sunflowers. They need the sun. Well, actually all flowers do, but you know what I mean. You have a garden, for goodness sake. You should know these things. Well, you also have a gardener that does that gardening for you, so maybe you really don't, huh? Fun fact. Sunflowers exist in many, many different variations. Just to name 3. The Prado Red, the Mammoth Russian, or the Teddy Bear. It's really cute, I'm not gonna lie, it's kinda cute. The common sunflower is called Helianthus anus. Alright. It's a flower that belongs to the daisy family, which now that I think about it, it kinda looks like a big daisy. The fancy name Helianthus anus is made up of several words, of course. The part Heli comes from the word Helios, which is the god or titan of the sun. Then anthus, or originally anthos, simply means flower, and the anus part means annual or yearly. It's far less kinky as you think it is. So translated, the name would simply mean sunflower yearly, which is straight to the point, which is rare for such fancy old words, not going to lie. Speaking to straight to the point, with Bilbo in the corridor, we see that all candles are lit and the fire in the fireplace is burning bright. Did you leave it like that when you left for your own party? What if the whole burnt down? I assume there might be some safety for the fireplace, but the candles? The one in the back is close to the bending of the ceiling and can already kind of make out a burning mark. And with the amount of loose paper you keep lying around, Bilbo, I wouldn't be surprised if one would catch fire and your home would burn down like the inhabitants did of the Lonely Mountain. But it's okay. It's okay! Bilbo walks into the living room and Gandalf stands already there, waiting and scolding him. Bilbo looks into the completely wrong direction first and then he faces Gandalf. Either he has terrible echolocation or Ian Holm just didn't know where to look at first, because Ian McKellen was probably later added to this scene, so their size difference would match the ones in the book. Or it was on purpose, I'm not sure here. But regardless, Bilbo counters with how funny it was as he packs his candles and something? It might be a dagger? Wait, but if that, why not carry that with you? You know, on your person. In your pack, a dagger is quite useless. Well, unless it's a butter knife for butter, for the toast, for breakfast number 1. Then I can see why. We'll see. I'd like to say how I love how Bilbo is not at all surprised to see Gandalf here, as if he anticipated the wizard to be upset with him, or at least the smartest of the bunch to look for him at his own house. Still, Gandalf is having little of it, and says that there are many powerful rings, and none should be used lightly. Oh, so that is a clear hint to the other rings of power. We as the audience know of these, of course, because we have seen the prologue to this film, and one of those Gandalf even possesses, as we've established in an earlier episode. Though Bilbo argues this was just fun, Gandalf is probably right as always. He goes to the mantelpiece to pick up his pipe and asks Gandalf if he could have an eye on Frodo. Sweetly, Gandalf even offers to, as often he can spare them, and then Bilbo goes around the wizard to pick up his red book. He then says that he leaves everything to Frodo. This piques Gandalf's interest, and he asks if that ring also stays with Frodo. And before we continue, can I just say how impressed I am with the sheer volume of Bilbo's backpack? That candles and pipe fit into it are not surprising. Please, my own coat could do that. But the red book, which is massive, just plops in there like a loose puzzle piece. I checked and found the Svetli Sudar Leather Arts Workshop, which in 2018 made a beautiful replica of Bilbo's backpack. I never really got to see it in the movie because it's dark and not well exposed. So to me it looked like a normal brown backpack, but it has such fine details. Exact with the same design and framing, and they used the movie and the drawing from the art book as reference, and they came up with a volume of around 17 liters, which is not that much now that I think about it. I mean, regular school backpacks have around 26 to 28 liters. Of course, if the replica is a perfect copy, we don't know, but safe to say that they are probably really close to the original. And keep in mind, this is a Hobbit backpack, so 17 liters might actually be quite a good volume for a traveling Hobbit. Fun fact, the oldest historically recorded backpack we found was with Ötzi the Iceman, a mummy from the Copper Age which was between 3200 BC and 2200 BC. So a good while ago. The backpack was a U-shaped hazel rod, approximately 2 meters long, and 2 narrow wooden boards, 38 to 40 centimeters long, and those are the only surviving parts of his backpack. The wooden boards and the hazel rod were probably tied together with string, and a hide sack or net was attached to the frame. Backpacks made of wood have a long tradition in the Alps. They were used to transport firewood, for instance. And that is simply the oldest we've found so far. I'm sure there are far older versions and types of backpacks out there that we simply haven't found yet or correctly identified because they have been destroyed over time. Okay, fun fact over. Yes, says Bilbo. It's in an envelope on the mantelpiece. And while Gandalf starts looking, Bilbo corrects himself and realizes that the ring is still in his pocket. An ominous and heavy echo comes in as he takes the ring out of its pocket and turns it in his hand. He remarks on how odd it is, and he doesn't really elaborate on that. He doesn't say what's so odd. Must be an inner dialogue, probably 100% with the ring, which is trying to convince Bilbo to keep the ring for himself, because the ring wants to leave the Shire and be found. Bilbo makes a big grimace as he suggests he keeps the ring for himself. Now this Gandalf doesn't like to hear and asks if it really is so hard to let the ring stay here. We cut back behind Bilbo and oh my god, there's even more paper and parchment everywhere, loosely lying there.
This is an administrative nightmare. I can't work like this. I just can't work like this.
We see scrolls, maps, and probably letters just all around, either on the bench, on the window, in the upper right of the screen, or in the middle of the left, on the floor, in front of a small wooden cabinet. On the table with Bilbo's backpack we see, I am not sure. There is definitely a marmalade jar, a quill, a milk can, and either a weirdly shaped bread or a massive block of cheese. Given this is a Hobbit house, both is very likely, but for the sake of nose, I just hope it's a weirdly shaped bread. Also, why is there a quill on the table when there is food? Why is there so much chaos in this house? As if he heard me criticize his home, Bilbo turns around with a surprised look. No, he says to Gandalf's question with an almost innocent look, and then we zoom in close and it morphs into an almost evil expression, when he confesses that it's actually hard to leave the ring here. We take position back to the front of Bilbo and he almost sounds panicked at first and then angry. He doesn't want to part with it. It came to me, he says. Gandalf's look morphs from worried to insulted? I can't really read that. He doesn't look mad per se, but also not worried entirely. It's a weird combo of are you okay and what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, I think that's the best way to describe it. It's a what the fuck expression. Bilbo begins to yell and Gandalf tries to calm him down, but Bilbo just doesn't and he blames Gandalf for his outburst, further intensifying Gandalf's suspicion of which ring this one might be. And then we hear the famous words from Bilbo's mouth. It is mine, my own, my precious. While a melody much akin to the treachery of the ring is playing in the background, all the while we see Bilbo's gone mad face. There's a lot of faces in this episode. The word precious makes Gandalf question Bilbo even more, reminding him that it was Gollum who had also called the ring his precious. And, just like Gollum, Bilbo turns around in rage with a sound that matches an angry dog. He then accuses Gandalf of wanting the ring for himself, and Gandalf does not let that slide. He shouts at him with his full legal name like a mad mum, and Gandalf's voice takes on another tone, and it feels as if his voice alone has power over the Hobbit right now. The entire room grows darker and darker, the wood begins to groan and to croak, as if a massive pressure is building onto them. All this happens while the camera is always focused from below onto Gandalf, making him look much taller than he actually is. Another great use of the forced perspective trick they've been using here and there. But now it's even more amplified with this power radiating from Gandalf. I have my theory as to why Bilbo seems to be frozen in place here. As I said before, Gandalf's voice has taken on a new tone, an almost commanding form. And that might just be it. Remember, Gandalf is not just a wizard, he is a Maia, who has taken the form of a wizard, like four others did, but that's not important. The Maia are essentially angels or lesser deities that help the Valar, the gods, in shaping the world with their voices. It is with singing and words that they command their element of their designated station. You know, there's not just elemental ones like Sauron being a fire spirit, there are some for other things as well, such as mourning or birds or trees or what have you. You know, non-Avatar The Last Airbender things. However, I don't think he is dominating Bilbo in any sense. No. He and the other wizards were sent specifically not to dominate the free people of Middle-earth. I think he is just keeping him in place, like trying to shake him out of a manic episode because his normal voice is not doing it, so he has to resort to a more powerful one. The voice of Olorin, his real voice. Remember, Olorin was his name before he became Gandalf. Gandalf reassures Bilbo that he doesn't want to rob him, he simply wants to help him, and the last one he says with a soft chuckle and a warmth in his eyes that this snaps Bilbo out of his madness, and he rushes to the wizard, embracing him with a sad little whimper, as if to say, "I'm sorry, I don't know what came over me." They stay there for a short moment before Gandalf kneels down and reminds Bilbo how long they've been friends and that he should trust him like he once did before. He is referencing The Hobbit here for the people who simply do not understand references. You can see in Bilbo's eyes his mind working until he nods and agrees with Gandalf that the ring must go to Frodo. And I believe him here. His conviction, the deep breath, I don't think he's lying here, especially now with Gandalf this close. So let's put a pin in that, okay? But he moves aside, picks up his backpack and puts it on and gets ready to leave, without leaving the ring behind. He has already opened the door with walking stick in hand. I didn't see him pick that one up. Maybe he did so in between frames, who knows? And Gandalf gently chimes in, "Bilbo, the ring is still in your pocket." Bilbo turns to Gandalf, who is slowly walking towards the Hobbit, and you see how Bilbo is sort of sheepish looking, as if he hoped to get away with it, even though he just said with big conviction in his eyes that the ring must go to Frodo. But there's also a little embarrassment in a sense, similar to how old people are embarrassed when they forget something. Gandalf gives a very skeptical and critical look. Before we cut back to a close-up shot of the ring, the music swings back and forth with a deep and thundering echo in the back. Bilbo's hand shakes as he tilts his hand more and more, and the ring simply doesn't fall. Remember, it wants to leave the Shire, it has a mind of its own, it wants to be discovered and returned to Sauron at all cost, so it wants to stay with Bilbo, who is now finally leaving the Shire. Only when the hand passes a 90-degree angle does the ring finally fall victim to gravity and fall with a very heavy thump onto the ground and does not bounce. Just thump, there it is, like a stone that weighs a ton. I always wondered how they did that, but it's actually super easy to explain. Magnets! Wow, so complicated. The floor where the ring falls onto is magnetic, and thus the ring just doesn't bounce, because the ring in that shot is also of a different material than the normal prop one. As to how the ring stays on Bilbo's hand for this long, that's due to the fact that the ring is partially coated with an adhesive, so it would stick a little longer to the hand. Very easy and practical effects that work 25 years later, because the illusion is absolute flawless. For a frame, we see the ring motionless on the floor in front of Bilbo's feet, and in the reflection we see... what? It's round and dark and I can't really make out any detail. Could that be a camera? No, it can't be, because if it were, then we'd see the lower part more and not a perfect round shape, right? I realize I know as little about reflective perspective as much as I know about maths. So let's move on before I embarrass myself even more, okay? Bilbo walks out quickly, Gandalf following along. We see the rings still on the floor, a nice little detail. He then takes a deep breath like a heavy weight has been lifted off his shoulder, and thinks for a moment before he shares his thoughts. Right then, after the ominous music related to the ring, we hear the gentle melody of the Shire again. Bilbo reveals the ending of his book, that his character shall live happily ever after, till the end of his days, which is a very Hobbit thing to have, a happy life, with no magic rings. God, I love these things where the music is a perfect dance partner to the movie. You could just listen to the film and not watch it at all and understand what is happening because the score is so meticulously composed. Just brava to you, Mr. Shaw. Brava!
I wish I could see you live in March, but I learned of your concert in January and there were no tickets left and now I'm sad and I'm completely fine.
Gandalf is sure that he will have a happily ever after. Of course, he means Bilbo himself and not the character of Bilbo's book. But given that the Red Book tells the story of the Hobbit and it sort of is an autobiography of Bilbo, so that character is Bilbo. He is his own character. Whatever. We love a good self-insert. The two shake hands and share a gentle goodbye, with Gandalf adding a cheeky wink at the end as he loves to do. Bilbo then begins his journey, taking the road that leads away from the party. Remember, the people at the party are still looking for him? Well, we don't hear them anymore, but let's assume they do. Hey, maybe a lot of them fell asleep. To be fair, a lot of them were incredibly drunk. Bilbo begins to sing his song, the same one Gandalf had sung when he first arrived in the Shire. The road goes ever on and on. And now that Bilbo is leaving, I think it is just right that we look at the song in full. The full original song is sung by Bilbo in chapter 19 in The Hobbit, so that's towards the end, when he travels home from the Lonely Mountain, and in the distance, when he sees his home, he sings this. Roads go ever, ever on, over rock and under tree, by caves where never sun has shone, by streams that never find the sea, over snow by winter sown, and through the merry flowers of June, over grass and over stone, and on the mountains in the moon. Roads go ever, ever on, under cloud and under star, yet feet that wandering have gone, turn at last to home afar. Eyes that fire and sword have seen, and horror in the halls of stone, look at last on the meadows green, and trees and hills they long have known. There are many ways to interpret this song. Many say it's a symbol for life, you know, the road is life and we all take it. But eventually we all get home or find our way home, whatever home may be. In this instant, it's Bag End. And in both stories, that's very true. Both The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings begin here, and they both end here. I'd like to think it's a way for Bilbo to compose himself. After all he has seen and been through, he finally gets to go home. Many times he thought he'd die, but he survived against all odds, and singing makes the heart lighter, and at the end of a journey you can also be a bit sad that it's over. But that's just how journeys are in general. They all must end eventually. I imagine he sings it now as a comfort to himself, as in, I've done it before, I can do it again, and our good Bilbo will certainly try just that. We open the door to a close-up shot of the One Ring still on the dirty, dusty floor, and interestingly enough, we take its perspective. We see Gandalf from below, but not frog perspective or hobbit perspective. No, ground perspective. Gandalf eyes the ring carefully and with scrutiny as he was saying, "Which one are you?" We shift a little back and forth between the perspective, which is really cool, in my opinion, because it kind of reminds me of an old western standoff. Two cowboys circle each other, ready to draw their guns. But you know, in this case, it's just an ancient nature spirit and a part of another ancient nature spirit having some sort of watchdown. There is also no music at all, which is great because it forces us to pay close attention to what is happening. Nothing wants to distract us. The movie is pointing with its medium to what is important: the ring. Gandalf bends down and comes closer, then his hand is reaching out, and only then do we hear a faint sound, the similar echoey sound we've heard before with Bilbo. His fingers nearly touch the ring, but then, right before, a sudden flash of an eye made of fire covers the entire screen. It sounds like a deep hiss almost, and boy, that's what I call a jump scare. Imagine seeing that, witnessing it on a big screen. We, of course, know who or what that was. The Eye of Sauron. But don't worry, this will be confirmed later in the film. Gandalf must have sensed the essence of the Dark Lord and slowly moves his fingers away from the One Ring without changing a single wrinkle in his face. I would have gasped if I had suddenly seen that ball of fire, but alright. Maybe that's not the first insane elemental vision he had seen in his time. Who knows with Gandalf? We cut to Gandalf sitting in a chair next to the fireplace smoking his pipe. Not much time has passed. It's still dark out, the place looks just as disorganized as it was before, so surely only a few minutes had gone by. The eerie silence has been replaced by slow strings as we hear Bilbo's words echo again as we stare into the fire. It has come to me, my own, my precious. Gandalf is lost in deep thought as the smoke wafts around him, his eyes looking for something in the fire, or maybe he's searching in his mind through those thousands of years of living for an explanation. But what is he thinking? Will Frodo ever come back home? And has the party tent burned down since Pippin and Merry have been left unattended? Well, those questions have to wait, because we have reached the end of this podcast episode, and I hope you enjoyed. I think this is the shortest episode by far. There simply wasn't much to talk about, given that this was a dialogue-heavy scene between two characters, both of which we had already dissected in a previous episode, and we're also in a location that we've already talked about extensively. So I was a little worried at the beginning when I was done with the script, but I am still pleased with the number of things that we did look at, and it's just a really good scene that further shows the old and deep friendship both Gandalf and Bilbo have with each other, and it's a beautiful setup for the rest of the series, you know, the One Ring being so manipulative. I hope I have one like that when I'm old. I mean friendship, not ring with manipulative magic powers. I mean friendship, okay? God. I wish you a great day whenever you listen to this, and I hope you were able to just vibe or do whatever you needed doing while this was going on in the background. So, until next episode of The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring podcast. Take care!